camera speed. Now, here is a motion picture film.
Good evening, and welcome to Real Movies. Tonight's film comes from one of the most prolific cult directors in cinema history, the director responsible for the modern slasher, the ultimate tale of the base under siege, and some of the most iconic cult motion pictures. Tonight's film is John Carpenter's They Live. Released in 1988, They Live is based on the short story 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson, which Carpenter adapted into a screenplay under the name Frank Armitage. Starring Roddy Piper, at the time a famous wrestler in the WrestleMania series, the film follows Nada, a blue-collar guy down on his luck and drifting across the country. When he stumbles onto a pair of sunglasses produced by a strange group of scientists, Nada's world is turned upside down. It's all a lie. They live. They are here. And it's up to Nada to stop them. They Live is a film that has only got more relevant with age. When first released, the film was a clear assault on the commercialization that John Carpenter was growing to loathe, brought about by President Ronald Reagan, slick Thatcherism with a smile and a cheeseburger. However, in an age of interpretive information, when trust in public officials is at an all-time low, and when the world is awash with conspiracy theories more outrageous than anything Mulder and Scully investigated, They Live is open to far more interpretations now than ever, as the film comes to parallel modern events with astonishing clarity. Casting a star of WrestleMania 3 as the lead in a motion picture may seem like a choice only Carpenter could make. However, casting wrestlers in movies, especially in the 80s, wasn't totally radical. In 1982, Hulk Hogan had appeared in Rocky III, and the year after They Live was released, starred in his own film, No Holds Barred. A year prior to the release of They Live, meanwhile, Andre the Giant had delivered one of the most endearing performances in any film when he played Fezzik in The Princess Bride. However, no one cast a wrestler better than when Carpenter cast Roddy Piper as They Live's lead, Nada. A match made in heaven, Piper's wrestling experience added a layer of authenticity to the 6-minute-long, blow-by-blow fight scene as Piper faces off with Carpenter collaborator and co-star Keith David. And of course, it was Piper who applied one of his wrestling lines to arguably the single best moment in the film.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Keith David's performance as Nada's friend Frank is enjoyable to watch given how much Frank clearly doesn't want to be involved initially, driven by the thought of his family back home, which only makes the ending more gutting. The ending of They Live was the only part of the film I found disappointing. It felt rushed at best and was, in all honesty, unsatisfying after all the legwork that had gone into getting the characters and the audience to that point. By no means does it ruin the film, it's an ending you can live with, but it's probably not the ending you want. Visually, They Live is stunning. Cinematographer Gary B. Kibb casting a large part of the film in shadow, so the daylight feels rich in colour, almost saturated, until the shades are down and the black and white makes everything clear. The B-movie elements that so characterise Carpenter's work are here too, with charming retro visual effects by Jim Danforth. Employing matte paintings and stop motion, there's a vintage aesthetic with throwbacks to 50s sci-fi cinema and a slight jump between colour shots and black and white effect shots. It's very subtle, it's a result of the practical process, but there's something in the back of your mind saying, that's not quite right. And it adds another layer to the viewing experience. Ironically, for a film so dead set against commercialism, its imagery has since been commercialised, with art inspired by its aesthetic appearing in the early noughties thanks to artist Shepard Fairey, who went on to launch a streetwear brand with the imagery. For a lot of the 2010s, baseball caps, tees, hoodies and bags stamped with the iconic Obey became the go-to for on-trend teenagers across the country, with the message behind the phrase all but lost. Carpenter's intentions coming full circle without a pair of shades in sight. However, you can't talk about They Live without talking about the aliens. Designed to look like ghouls, an alternative term for zombies, in Carpenter's mind, if these beings were corrupting humanity, then they ought to look like corruptions of the human form itself. It was an inspired choice, executed with outstanding makeup prosthetics by Michael Mills and Francisco Carrizosa. It is arguably what has made They Live such an enduring cult classic. The imagery is simply iconic. Had the effects looked different, then it's unlikely the rest of the film would have pulled off its highbrow questioning masked behind a familiar tale of one man's journey to rebellion. A film that arrived 30 years early, John Carpenter's They Live is, on the surface, a tale of one man against the world, but it doesn't take much to realise what it's really talking about. A postmodern popcorn B-movie with something to say, provided you're listening on the right frequency, keep it cult, finish your bubble gum, and get ready to kick ass. This is They Live.